Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer hearing of November 10th, 2010. My name is Roger Kiesel, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have two cases today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels directly behind me. Hearing procedures. We have two variances. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if four required findings are present. The first finding, that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. The second finding is that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not generally apply to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. The third finding, that the granting of the variance will not be material detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And then the final finding is that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. Decision. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I went in the wrong order. I did. Sorry. Findings. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Public notice. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, placed in the local newspaper, and posted on the city's website. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read a description of the application and request. Then I'll read the reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. Then the case planner will make a brief overview on the case, giving analysis and making a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward and stating both name and address, and will be asked to present a case within a 15-minute time period. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again, clearly stating their names and address within a 3-minute time limit. And then finally, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing arguments. If desired, the response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time period. The hearing will be closed and the case will be taken under submission. Decision. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at the hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the decision date, and the notice of appeal shall be filed with the Building and Safety Division located at MSB Room 101 of this building. Speakers cards. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided by the front door and submit it to our planning staff. I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Okay, we are down to the agenda items. The first case is at 500 North Glendale Avenue. It's a standards variance, case number PVAR 2010-010. The applicant is Signtech. The owner of the property is J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, and the case planner is Dennis Joe. Project description is this is an application to allow one wall sign let's see, hold on a second. An application to allow one wall sign exceed the maximum amount of directional signs, exceed the maximum amount of informational signs, and exceed the maximum height for information and directional signs located at 500 North Glendale Avenue in the C2 Height District 1. And also part of the site is zoned R1650-P, which is medium high-density residential and a parking overlay zone. It's described as portions of lots 1, 2, 3, and 5, track number 4142. And I'll turn it over to Dennis Show. Thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Kiesel. I'm just going to begin with the description of the property and its use. The subject property is approximately 69,000 square feet, located on the corner of North Glendale and Doran Street. It's currently developed with an existing two-story commercial building, approximately 10,000 square feet, with surface-level parking. A single tenant occupies the building, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, and it has been used as a bank for over 40 years. To provide some background on the entitlements on this property, back in 1987, a standards variance number 8183-S allowed the bank to construct a ground sign to be located in the street front setback. The special circumstances for this application was that the building was built at a oblique angle along North Glendale and Doran Street, which obscures any visibility for any potential wall signs from both streets. The subject property can only rely on a ground sign for advertising and identification. So the zoning administrator for this previous variance case, which was approved, conditioned this application prohibiting any wall signs on the existing building unless the subject ground sign was removed or altered in size and location to conform to current city code. Staff's analysis on this request is that a new wall sign has been included with this application while maintaining the ground sign. Although a wall sign is permitted by right by the zoning code, as previously stated, a condition of approval for the previous standards variance was imposed prohibiting a wall sign so as long as the subject ground sign exists. Procedurally, an approved variance application that has been passed and passed the appeal period, it cannot be reheard by the hearing officer, and the conditions of approval cannot be amended. For this reason, with this application, the existing ground sign previously granted is part of this application. The ground sign has existed in over 23 years. The core intention of the applicant's request is to add the wall sign and to maintain the ground sign. If the existing ground sign is mandated removed, the applicant will experience unintended repercussions and will lose the sign that was previously granted by the variance. The exceptional circumstances for this ground sign was that the building was constructed at an oblique angle, which obscures the visibility of potential wall sign from both streets. The subject property can only rely on the ground sign. Staff believes this is still the case. The site planning is in principle the same as the site planning of the building is the same in principle as the previous variance, and the building is still has the oblique angle from both streets. Once again, the applicant's requesting to preserve the existing ground sign and to construct a wall sign. However, the applicant has failed to demonstrate a compelling argument why a wall sign is necessary for the site. The applicant has changed his position that the building relies on the ground sign and requests for more signs. If the ground sign were to remain and the new wall sign were allowed, the subject site will have an unfair advantage in terms of identification and in advertising over the neighboring properties with the same zoning designation. In regards for the applicant request for additional information signs and height waivers for the informational and directional signs, the applicant stated the request is that the layperson would not notice that the excess amount of informational signs. Staff is unable to support this waiver as the special circumstances or unnecessary hardship is not presented for the bank. Based upon the exhibits and provided field conditions, staff believes there are no hardships or unusual circumstances of the property to support this request. Additionally, the applicant has included a request to construct 4 directional signs where 3 directional signs are permitted for the site or permitted by right. Staff believes there is an exceptional condition on the property in which the circulation circulation pattern of the property has existed since the original constructed of the building since 1965. Comments from the Public Works Department state that if the fourth directional sign advising vehicles do not enter is not allowed, an inconvenience would occur when vehicles drive into opposing direction of a one-way drive aisle. The additional do not enter directional sign does promote public safety for a parking lot with a dated circulation design. Overall, staff recommends a partial approval for the ground sign and the additional directional sign, but recommends denial for the additional informational sign and additional height for the informational and directional signs. Further, staff recommends that the condition of approval for the partial approval to include the previous condition for the previous variance, which prohibits a wall sign unless the ground sign is removed or brought into conformance with current code standards. This concludes staff's presentation. Myself, as well as the applicants, available for questions.
Thanks. Actually, let me step back a second. I was supposed to read comments from the other departments. So before the applicant comes up to speak, let me just, the one comment that we had was from Traffic and Transportation regarding the project, and their comments were as follows. The project driveway on Glendale Avenue currently accommodates inbound traffic only. This driveway connects with an east-west internal roadway that operates one-way eastbound between Glendale Avenue and the project's surface parking lot located on the eastern portion of the site. In order to reduce the potential for a motorist to travel westbound the wrong way on said internal roadway in order to exit onto Glendale Avenue, staff recommends that a do not enter sign be appropriately located where said internal roadway intersects the surface parking lot. In addition, the sign could be supplemented with a painted arrow on the roadway. In so doing, the potential for congestion and adverse impacts on the public safety at the Glendale Avenue driveway intersection would be minimized. In addition, the potential for inconvenience to motorists traveling in the opposite direction on the internal roadway would also be minimized. So that was the only comment that we had from other departments regarding this case. Now the applicant can come up to speak. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Steve Terrio with Signtech, 4444 Federal Boulevard, San Diego. We read the staff's report, and Chase agrees with it. We're willing to forgive the wall sign because we don't want to run the risk of losing the ground sign, the existing pole sign at the corner. They don't want to go to code and reduce the size and remove that. So we're going along with the...
You're fine with if the variance is granted to keep that condition number 3 in the
Yes.
previous variance? Okay.
We're going along with that. The only thing we would like is to increase the height, the 3-foot height on the information signs. We feel that when people pull into the parking lot and park their cars, they won't be able to see them because it's actually lower than the front of their car, 3 foot high. The problem with that site is there's so many apartment buildings nearby, people are parking in the bank for overnight parking,
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
and that's the major issue with that site, and that's why we're here before you. So basically, we're, as far addressing the directional signs, we've got one at each driveway. The other 2 directional are actually do not enter signs, which is in agreement with what the Public Works Department had said. They have a straight one-way flow of traffic going into the parking lot from Glendale at the south end of that building, and with those do not enter signs, that would prevent any possibility for any accidents or anybody getting injured. So basically, we're looking to get approval for the 2 additional directionals as well as the extra height on the information signs.
Okay. Let's see. All right, a couple questions. Are all the information and direction signs new? It looks like from the pictures you're just going to remove what's out there now, or you've already, and you're going to replace them with new?
Correct.
Okay.
Replacements.
Now, actually, I thought I saw on the pictures. The proposed signage is going to be almost 7 feet in height,
6'9".
6'9". And according to our code, it can't be any higher than 3 feet or 4 feet, depending on where it is.
Right.
And the reason why you want them almost 7 feet in height is,
For better visibility,
okay,
especially with people in high-profile vehicles.
okay. In your opinion, is this parking lot or the situation any different from most other parking lots which would warrant granting that increase in height?
Probably not.
Okay. I mean, they're large vehicles everywhere? Okay. Okay. Actually, I think that was all my questions, particularly since you're fine with the ground sign and not requesting that change in the condition. So, if you have anything else to add, particularly with the number of wall signs, or I'm sorry, the number of information directional signs, or the height, I don't have anything.
We're requesting 7, and staff recommends 6. I understand their position on that. If we reduce the 2 on the north end of the property to 1, I'm sure that would be okay.
Okay.
Reduce the number down to 6.
Okay. All right. That's all I had, really. So, unless you have anything else to add, I'll close this public hearing and I'll take it under submission. Thanks. Okay, the second case this morning is 700 Kimlin Drive. It's standards variance case number PVAR 2010-020. The applicant is John Pride. The owner is Seventh-day Adventist Church. The case planner is Christopher Baxter. And the project description is an application for a standards variance to remove an asphalt playground at the Glendale Adventist Academy, which is located at 700 Kimlin Drive, and replace it with artificial turf where artificial turf is not allowed. The site is located in the R1R low-density residential zone, Flower Area District number 1, described as a portion of Lot 15, Hodgkins subdivision, and Lot 39, track number 7427. And let me go over the comments. Oops. Okay, from Glendale Water and Power Electric. The transmission and distribution engineering. The existing electrical facility shall be protected in place. Access to the power pole shall be maintained at all times. All electrical facilities shall be accessible to GWP personnel at all times. Any possible power pole relocation shall be coordinated with GWP Electric Engineering in advance of the project's expenses. A complete set of plans shall be submitted to GWP Electrical Engineering Department for review. Any work done by GWP as a result of this project shall be coordinated with GWP Electrical Engineering Department in advance of the project. Project personnel are responsible for maintaining a 10-foot radial clearance from all overhead electrical lines during construction, including construction equipment. If the 10-foot clearance cannot be met, contact GWP Electrical Engineering Department to determine the appropriate actions. Minimum clearance of 18 inches from the face of the power pole to the curb or driveway shall be maintained. Okay, these are comments from electrical engineering. From the urban forester, that an indigenous tree permit shall be obtained for any work on or near or around the protected trees. Applications for a permit shall include an accurate tree plan showing the exact location of each protected indigenous tree, including the accurate drip line on the subject property and all protected indigenous trees on adjoining properties whose trunks or branches are located 20 feet outside the subject property line. Plan shall include complete scope of work, including any current or future above-ground improvements and accurate contact information. Photos may be included. All plans subject to approval by the Public Works Urban Forester prior to the issuance of a building permit. From engineering, I believe just mostly standard comments. A grading drainage plan shall be submitted for the engineering division's review and approval. The method of discharge of all on-site drainage shall be approved by the city engineer. The entire asphaltic concrete roadway pavement within the vicinity of the property will be inspected after the completion of the construction of the project. In the event of damage as a result of construction-related activities, the applicant may be required to perform additional street improvement repairs up to the reconstruction of the asphaltic concrete pavement and the restoration of all parking restriction curb paintings, traffic delineation, striping, and pavement markings. The project shall comply with all National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System requirements. And that was from engineering. And then we also received a petition supporting the application from, looks like parents of children at the school, and quite a few, I don't know how many, a lot. So that's in the file as well. Those were all the comments I had, or all the comments I had from other departments. Chris, do you want to go over the case?
Cecil, the project is located, as you mentioned, at the terminus of Kimlin. If you look here, first on the site plan, you got the Glendale Freeway, you got Chevy Chase, and then Kimlin goes and dives into the property right there. You can also see it here, and then the property begins like this, which is like that. In the middle of the property, in a schoolyard, is the playground. Now, if you look here on the larger site plan, here's the end of the Kimlin. Walk up through here, and then here's where the little play yard, bordered by these school buildings, a gym, library. And then a blow-up view, when I tried to orient it in a similar way here, so that you can see this building, and here's your elementary, the buildings down through here, and the gym over here. So if you can get a feel for where this area is. This is about 14,800, let's say just under 15,000 square feet of area. And the applicant will be removing the existing paving. And you can see in our photographs, you have paving in all these areas, so the whole area is all paved. The applicant will be removing that and replacing it with an artificial turf. As we look at it in our code, we define it as artificial turf. And the reason we're even seeing this project, as you noted, is that it's in an R1R zone, which is traditionally for single-family houses. But in this case, we have a school. Schools are this is a non-conforming use in the area that's been there for many, many years. We have building permit records showing back to 1940s. Now, when they put the artificial turf in, you can see where the little dashed lines are here, or the little dots. They're also going to put in some courts for the children to play on that are identified here, such as a basketball court here. And they're going to have some small retaining walls that border it to kind of level out the site. The site right now has a gentle slope. Went out there, and when I did my site inspection, and the children were playing out there, so it's not, and you can see in the photos, it's not a steep slope, it's just almost pretty level. But they'll be leveling it out a little bit with some retaining walls that they're going to add to the area. This will require about 250 cubic yards of asphalt to be removed, and some additional 50 cubic yards of soil around that asphalt to be removed. Be some importing of sand and gravel and soil when they install the artificial turf. And we're kind of guesstimating around 35 truckloads of material to enter and leave the site. Those dump trucks, about 35. Just a very brief history. The Planning Commission looked at this issue of artificial turf in Glendale, and there were some reasons they weren't interested in having it in residential zones, and primarily in the hillside, and we listed that in the staff report, such as the drainage and erosion issues and concerns, and having no habitat benefit, contains heat, absorbs heat, requires more maintenance to clean. These are some of the issues that were pointed out and said these are problems in any kind of residential zone. Now, they felt that in the R1 zone, which is a flatland residential zone, that it could be acceptable when it's not visible from the street on a relatively level area and not within the drip lines of trees. And on this site, though, we do want to point out that we do have two large oak trees that are in the immediate site. The drip line actually is more accurately portrayed here in the plan. In the photograph overhead. You can see it. There is no space between, and the play equipment is all up underneath here. And then they have a rubberized material for the children to play on top of the asphalt. So it's all asphalt under here now. That's the existing condition. Urban Forester went out and looked at it, and they're familiar with it. And we do have a condition that addresses the protection and preservation of the oak trees. The staff is recommending approval of the project because when we go through the four findings here relating to for instance, the hardship, one of the things that's unique about this property, which also ties into number 2, is that the ordinance is primarily for single-family properties. This is a school, a whole different type of use, and a playground for children is an incidental use. It's a very important use for kids. Kids got to get out, play, and this provides. Right now, it's concrete. It's blacktop concrete. This will provide an area that will be a safer area to play on. The school has been there for a long period of time, so it's a legal non-conforming use, but it's been there, as our records show. At least we have permits that go back to the 1940s. The school itself, at least on their webpage, says they've been around since the early 1900s. Our records of this show from the 1940s at this location. And so we don't feel that it has a long history of use in the city, recognized by the city, so we don't see how it can be materially detrimental to the property or to the surrounding areas. Also, artificial turf is certainly at least as, if not safer, than blacktop for a playground for children. And the urban forester has noted that there'll be conditions for protection and preservation of the trees. And we feel overall that it will not be, granting the variance would not be contrary to the ordinances or the objectives of the ordinances. They will meet some basic requirements that if this were in a zone, such as a multifamily or commercial zone, or even an R1 zone, they would meet the intent of the code, which is a relatively level area, not visible from any place. And so it sort of meets that intent. That pretty much concludes our discussion. I can go into more detail with the applicant's representatives here, and I think people from the school are here. I'm not sure. I have not received any comments from the neighborhood. Talk about that. Did you?
I didn't receive any. I didn't see any letters from the neighborhood. The petition was there.
I've had a couple calls from parents that have interest in the project, but their interest a lot of time is related to timelines when it'll be approved, so that the construction will not be interrupting with the kids' studies and stuff like that. Because it is a playground, and as I mentioned, it's an integral part, incidental but integral part of any kind of a K through 12 school. That pretty much concludes.
Okay, we've got a number of speakers. Let's see. The applicant. Okay, we have four cards designated as applicants. So, Mr. Pride, do you want to come up first? Okay, and then you all will get a total of 15 minutes.
Very good. Mr. Keyswell, thank you for taking the time to hear our case. I also want to thank Mr. Baxter for a well-done review and report. Almost enough said. Just kidding. As you're aware, we're obviously asking for something that doesn't currently fit the R1R code. In the process of looking at alternatives for what we're after, the synthetic turf idea it offers the best of all worlds for the purpose of what we're looking to achieve. As Mr. Baxter mentioned, the original intent of the code was for residential zones, visible hillsides, et cetera, that and/or being visible from other locations around the hills itself. Our site is, as Mr. Baxter mentioned, a unique site based on the fact that it is legal non-conforming, but more importantly, even though it's in the R1R zone, it is virtually invisible from any neighbor. We have one neighbor to the south. Well, it's actually to the west, but it would be like if you're looking at that drawing that's 90 degrees vertical, it would be to the south of that sheet. They have a second-story bedroom window view, a sliver of a view.
Right here?
Correct. And
oh, I see.
but again, it's an incidental view in that it's a second-story bedroom window, and within 2 to 3 years, that view will be gone as the existing foliage on that side continues to grow. The current surface is unsafe, irrespective if we were to repave, level the surface out and just put back either asphalt or concrete. It's not necessarily conducive for the type of elementary play from that perspective. The other issue is that the turf field that does exist on the property is a long ways away, and it's not conducive to take the elementary kids from that area all the way up to that ball field that's approximately 30 feet higher up the property and close to 200 feet away, or 300 feet. It's quite a distance. The other purpose is that the school itself, this particular playground, happens to be contained within the 3 elementary buildings, or the 2 main ones. Well, actually, there are 3. And so it makes much more sense for a turf-type field to be available by which the elementary kids can have better supervision, if you will, because there are a variety of teachers and teachers' aides that are constantly out in that field, whereas if you're taking them, foregoing the time even just to get from the upper field down and back and forth is a big waste of time. In the process of looking at these other alternatives, the real turf, which would be wonderful, is not it ends up being not a preferable use for several reasons, mainly the long-term cost, but most importantly, the immediate cost of maintenance and water. We're obviously although we've had some early rains this season, we are we need to do everything we can to conserve water, and real turf, even if in a low water use Bermuda type of turf, still requires generally daily water for a good quality turf to last. The other reason, obviously, is that with the oak trees being what they are, that's not a viable use around the oaks themselves. We want to try and minimize any of that. The second thing that's most important about the turf that we're proposing is that it is a permeable material. Hang on one second.
Are these the same?
Yes, they are. Well, they're slight versions of each Bermuda.
Yeah.
The issue is that they are a permeable turf. They do allow moisture to penetrate through, which is also a bonus to using this type of material in that we are allowing rainwater to penetrate back into the groundwater and recharge the aquifers. Any other surface other than natural turf wouldn't allow that. So we're not only increasing or improving the oxygenation around the oak trees, we do want to put the turf underneath part of the drip line, but we want to expand the current surrounding, which is about 2 feet away from the trunk, out to 8 feet. So we're going to increase the material, or increase the open space, but still which allows for more oxygenation than currently exists.
So currently, you have the trunk here, and 2 feet away is where
or closer.
or closer is where the asphalt begins.
Correct.
And you want to pull this stuff away to about 8 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
But moreover, the fact that the turf is permeable and breathable, it does allow for oxygen to get to the trees. The trees they're in pretty good health actually, and they've been doing fine with the asphalt as it is. But the turf and our new proposed process would actually improve it that much more. Let's see. And again, the biggest issue for us or for the school itself, is the increased cost. The cost to put this turf in is double what it would take to put in real turf, but the cost savings over maintenance and water, not to mention the pollution issues of mowing 2 to 3 times a week, is a drastic improvement. And the turf's lifespan is such that the quality of the look of the turf these days is at least 20 years. The cost savings far outweighs what it would take to replace it in that 20-year span, even if necessary, just because the half of the cost has already gone into the prep for it. So replacing the turf later down the line is a very simple and fairly inexpensive process. Just briefly going back to the 4 findings, I think Mr. Baxter covered most of that. Obviously it's a unique situation. We don't impact the community in any way, shape or form. It does allow for the children to have a much safer play area, at the same time minimize the use of water and cost overall expense. Aside from the only one neighbor that has that short view, it's not visible from anywhere else on the hillside. Interestingly, though, and I don't know if you've been there or not, but Glendale High School's field is synthetic. Mm-hmm. It happens to be a commercial zone, but it's still synthetic. Glendale Community College, however, is in an R1R zone and does have a synthetic field now. Unfortunately, the city, I guess, doesn't have jurisdiction over that, but
right.
but it's still there. So we're, with respect to what we're looking for, we're asking obviously for approval of the variance to allow us to improve the field and minimize the use of hard features other than just a few the basketball court and the 4-square court accordingly.
What sort of surface are those?
They will be cement.
Okay.
For the purpose of, they need to be accordingly just because of the type of use. Yeah.
Okay. I've got some other questions, but I'll just hold off until
Sure.
everybody's. The principal, is it Dr. Baker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Glenn Baker.
Okay. Thank you.
Glenn Baker. Do you need my address? Do you have it there? I think. Okay. I'm principal of the school. I've been at Glendale Academy for 22 years. I'm certainly grateful to hear the recommendation staff recommendation to approve this project. It's something that is really needed. We have a real desire to improve the play facility for our children. We have, even though we do everything we can to try to make sure the students are safe, asphalt is not a very forgiving substance to fall on. And little kids, when they run and they trip and they fall and they scrape themselves up, it's difficult. And so undertaking this project is something that I think will greatly enhance the school, greatly enhance the usability for our kids, and improve safety. So I'm just here to advocate for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Gregory, is it Hones?
Honus. He just
Honus.
had to leave. He left a letter.
Okay. Great. Oh, okay. All right. Let me try to just briefly summarize it, the letter. Mr. Honus is the chairman of the board of Glendale Adventist Academy, an elementary school. He's writing in support of the request of the variance. The primary reason why the variance is justified is based almost entirely on student safety. Seventh-day Adventist schools have used this material successfully in other cities and locations. Our collective experience with this has been positive, and I believe the negative impact to the city in considering the variance is 0. And he hopes that any work the city can do to expedite this project is a step in a positive direction. Okay. So that was a letter in support by one of the speaker cards. Mr. Stuart Morgan.
Anything I would have to say would be redundant right now.
Okay, well, the applicants have 15 minutes, so I'm assuming that you haven't used up your 15 minutes? No? No. Okay. Well, if you want to just state that, that's fine, then we'll go on to the applicants.
I truly appreciate Mr. Baxter's report. I'm encouraged. I'd like to spend a lot less of our school budget on Band-Aids. We have repeatedly instances of kids falling on this hard surface. So the primary intent was to help protect the kids, keep them safer while they play. We do have good supervision, but kids play and they run and they trip and they fall and they're injured. So we appreciate your help here. Thank you.
Very good. Don Rabiello.
Thank you, Mr. Ketzel, for seeing us. I'm Don Rabello, address 128 North Everett Street, Glendale, California, and I'm a supportive parent. I currently have 3 children going to school there, so I don't know if that weights me a little more. But I'm in support of this. I believe that the moratoriums for this kind of grass probably went into effect, before consideration of the school, and that it probably does have a non-conforming right to be able to put this grass down. But for me, it's a safety issue. My daughter was injured. My friend's son's teeth were broken out. And so I just really strongly feel that this kind of surface will provide a safer environment and hopefully not harm any of the city's situation. And anyway, so I'm in full support of it.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks. Jamie Mercer?
I actually just filled that out in case I was called.
Okay. Oh, are you the... Okay, okay. Just, Christopher Lau?
I'm Chris Lau from 632 Coleman Street, Altadena. I also have 2 kids at the school, and over the years, it's also a safety issue for me. I'm a big proponent of this variance. My son lost 2 front teeth when he was 7, and then my daughter earlier this year broke her arm in 2 places, one in the elbow and one in the wrist because of the asphalt. So asphalt, although it is a easier surface to keep and maintain, is a very unsafe surface for the kids to play on. We do need to have that cushioned and that textured surface, which serve multiple purpose, one for play and for socialization for the children, but also for a safe surface in case they do fall. That'll minimize the injuries. And since that time, one of our other friends her child broke his arm. So I guess time is of the essence to kind of get this fixed before more children get injured.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Royal Barber?
Hi, good morning. Just wanted to echo the comments of the other parents. I'm also a parent, resident of Glendale, and a parent of 2 children at Glendale Adventist Elementary. And for the same safety reasons, I'd like to encourage that this variance be granted. I've had to treat a lot of scrapes and bruises and stuff from the hard surface, and while I understand the reason for the prohibition on the residential area, this is because of the conditions as was presented earlier. I think this is an exceptional exception. So, thank you.
Good. All right. And then Steve Ronick.
Thank you, Steve Ronick. I'm a Glendale resident and have a delightful, active, precocious 7-year-old boy being the operative term here, that attends Glendale Adventist Elementary. He grew up playing at Nibley Park, had plenty of falls, but the city's parks, of course, have cushioned surfaces around the play areas. He's had, since he's a first grader now at Glendale Adventist Elementary, he's had numerous scrapes and bangs, which, okay, we expect that when we have kids. But about 8 weeks ago, he took a minor fall off the play equipment, which at Nibley Park wouldn't have been an issue because of the wonderfully maintained surface there. Although at school, he broke his arm. First time he's ever had a break after years of playing in city parks. And so after three weeks in a cast, I really needed to come here and express my fervent desire that this project be approved. Secondary reason is it's going to make the campus a much more attractive place. But because when we first toured the campus, seeing the concrete where the asphalt was, well, the school has a very, very good reputation for education, so we went there, but it's not very attractive, and so it'll look better if any of the residents can see it. But it'll protect our children, and I really don't want to go rushing off to Glendale Adventist Hospital again with, even though it's very close. That's not something that's high on my list of to-dos.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other speaker cards. Couple things. This may actually be more a question directed to you, Chris. In the R1R zone, or in the R1 zone, the Planning Commission said artificial turf may be appropriate if it was on level surface, not seen from a public view, not under drip lines. Why not under drip lines? Do you know why?
Minutes for those hearings, go into much more.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Chris. Yeah.
Hi. Traditionally, the reason why the urban forester doesn't like to have materials added below the drip lines of trees is because it's an introduction of a surface that's not permeable.
Okay.
See? So that's traditionally, for instance, in some of our other cases.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? All right. So in this particular case, and I was out there first and walked the site with the principal. The existing condition is already an impermeable surface below those oak trees. So they're not introducing something new there.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're making it even more permeable, at least that's what they're stating for their product, as well as allowing more area beneath the, more area distance from the trunk of the tree.
Okay.
So, but that's traditionally why you don't want to introduce something below the drip line of trees, because it's impermeable, which doesn't allow water to soak through, and then the roots are out at the base of that tree.
Okay. And then I'd like some clarification on where the artificial turf is being proposed, either the principal or, I'm sorry, Mr. Pride. If you could come up and just point out to me where the turf will be.
Currently, there's an existing retaining wall here that supports this lower portion of the property. There's an existing asphalt road that comes up to the back here. We're going to, which is right here. This road is coming up to this point. This is an existing slope here of existing trees.
Okay.
That's going to remain. We may remove the trees due to some dangerous conditions, but they're not protected, so I've already gone over that with urban forestry, and she's fine with that. The actual turf will then be, aside from these three sections of concrete, will be everything other than that in green. So it's this entire, well, except for this, there's a planter here. But up to...
So this will be in regular plants?
Yes, correct.
And then what's the difference between this and this in terms of?
These are going to be, well, it's the difference between, well, there's another turf, but under here is going to be a padded turf because of the play area.
Okay.
So this is going to be a standard turf surface over a concrete base, not concrete base, a road base type material, a sand and gravel compacted mix.
Okay.
And then under here, they're going to put a padded surface, and then the turf over the top of that.
Okay.
So that's the only reason for designating that particular.
Okay, that answers a couple of my questions, because if this was going to be a different surface, there isn't much artificial turf here.
No,
in this area between here and here.
Right.
But is it all going to be level?
Yes, it'll be the same.
Even
you won't even notice. The only difference is the pile. As an example, the turf surface, the main turf surface is this, and then the turf surface underneath the padded part, or over the padded part, is a shorter pile. It's just just a shorter bladed grass, kind of like a putting green in a way.
Okay.
But but for all intent and purposes, it's all one level turf.
Okay.
There's no differentiation between the grade. Other than what's going to happen now with this new 3-foot retaining wall, this lower portion is going to be more level now, and then this will be level.
Right, there's a slight slope that you can sort of see here, and so all this is going to be level?
Yeah, there is a slope up in here that's going to remain, just because we can't grade around the oak trees.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to leave this as is. This is an existing play set that's going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
This is an existing play set that's going to stay. There's a couple of new ones that are going to be put in as well, but they're we're replacing what's there now with something fresher.
And is this like a soccer field?
Yeah, it's like a mini soccer field.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's why that's grass.
Correct. And
Okay.
and then this wall ball court there's going to be a taller wall here
Okay.
for them to kind of like a handball type of court in a sense. And then the other thing we're doing from a safety aspect, there's a fairly steep ramp here. And so what we're going to do now is add a couple of, extend this planter wall over here and add another one at this point, and then create kind of an amphitheater type stair system that allows for kids to sit and use, but also a safer transition because it's a fairly steep little ramp right here as well.
Okay.
So, and that helps to flatten this space out.
Okay. So this area is delineated
Yes.
by this area?
Correct. Right.
So,
And that will remain landscape.
Okay. And that is shown where?
It is. You see it right there.
okay.
It's actually behind a wall. So there's no, and this will end up being shrubs. We actually have a landscape plan.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, because this is, I see a tree or two, but it
Right.
looks
It's
kind of
just
like dirt.
Yeah, that's all it is now. So it's going to get landscaped.
Okay.
We actually have a planting plan prepared already.
Okay.
So that once this, because what's going to happen is this wall, that wall is falling down. So
This is this?
Yes,
This
correct.
Dash line is this wall?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're going to add a new one to replace the other one that's falling down. There were several other large pines that had been slowly but surely just damaging the existing wall. And so it's starting to lean over, and so we want to replace that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see it here too.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're just, I mean, there's going to be a slight decrease in the amount of planter area.
Right.
Okay.
But at this point, when it gets landscaped, it's significantly more expanded from a visual impact and improved visual look. So yeah. So then the rest of this asphalt will just remain the same. And this is existing. This is an existing walkway around the schools, buildings themselves, as is this.
All right. Very good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I think that answered most of the questions I had. Are there electrical facilities or power poles in the area?
I'm not aware. There may be on corners, but I don't think there's anything within the playground area. So that's why
Okay.
I have no question about it. Because I'm not.
Yeah, I didn't see anything myself. Maybe it's underground stuff over there too. There could be underground
Okay.
stuff, but I didn't. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't something that jumped out at me when I was out there.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that question is just a result of the comments that we got from other departments, so. And I asked you that question already. I think that was it then. You answered like 3 or 4 of the questions that I had written. So if no one else wants a rebuttal to no one who rebutted, I think we can close the public hearing. Do you have it? Is there any other?
I just last quick comment. I think based on the 4 criteria that you had defined in our favor, I think we've met that significantly, and
Okay.
would look forward to your finding and approval.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Keithel?
Yes. Oh, I'll render a decision, fairly quickly on this. I'm typically, we try to get them out within 2 weeks, and I'll definitely do it within 2 weeks. It may not be today or tomorrow, but it'll be fairly quickly.
We were kind of assuming we get approval.
Okay. Okay. You've got building permits to pull for. Actually, if you can come back up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the one retaining wall, the shorter one, we don't need a permit, but the one I've already spoken to, I can't remember her name, but
Jan Edwards?
yes. And so we just have some things to get prepared for her.
Okay.
The engineering thing, there were a couple things I'll have some questions about that they were asking for that may also take some time, if that's still required. So we'll have to sit down with building and safety and iron those things out.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I'll close the public hearing for that case, and the planning hearing is officially closed. Thanks for coming. It's now 10:40 on November 10th. Thanks a lot.